Welcome, little dreamers, to a magical world where stories come alive. Snuggle up tight, close your eyes, and let your imagination take flight. Tonight, we're about to embark on a special bedtime adventure filled with wonder, laughter, and a sprinkle of stardust. Are you ready? Let's begin.
Things that go bump in the night. Every winter night, Snow White would sit by the warm fire and tell the 7 dwarfs a bedtime story before they went to bed. The dwarfs would get cozy in their little cottage, pulling on their nightcaps and getting ready to sleep. "Tell us a spooky ghost story, Snow White," begged Happy, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Yeah, tell us one that's really scary," said Bashful, though he looked a little nervous. Sneezy, sitting by the fire, sneezed loudly and the fire crackled, casting strange shadows on the walls. The wind howled outside, making the house feel even more mysterious. "All right, I'll tell you a story," Snow White said, her eyes twinkling. "This one is about a ghost that haunts a house just like this one." The dwarfs leaned in closer, their faces full of curiosity and just a little bit of fear. Snow White's voice dropped lower. "Every night when the clock strikes 9, the ghost can be seen at the top of the stairs. He wears a long white robe, and when he walks down, he makes a horrible sound, a low, scary groan." The dwarfs looked around the room nervously. The wind outside seemed to get louder, almost as if it was joining in with the story. And then Snow White whispered, "When the clock strikes the last 9, the ghost slowly walks down the stairs, step by step. The groaning gets louder and you can't see his face, only the ghostly shape coming closer and closer." The dwarves all shivered, and the room seemed even colder. "And if you look up, you'll see him right there at the top of the stairs, ready to come down." The wind howled again, and the candles flickered. It felt like the whole house was holding its breath. Suddenly, the clock on the wall began to chime. Ding dong, ding dong. 9 o'clock? Sleepy mumbled, rubbing his eyes. He wasn't fully awake, but still seemed to understand something strange was happening. Just then, on the 9th and final strike of the clock, Dopey looked up at the top of the stairs. His eyes grew wide. There, standing in the dark, was a figure covered in white, just like Snow White had described. The figure was still for a moment, then started to move down the stairs slowly. "Ooh," it came deep, spooky moan that echoed through the room. Dopey jumped. He quickly ran to the grandfather clock and hid behind it, peeking out from behind the wooden doors. Sleepy, startled, scrambled behind the heavy curtains by the window, and Sneezy, still sniffling, huddled behind them, happy, bashful, and Doc dove under the big wooden table, trying to hide. Happy was trying not to laugh, but even he looked a little scared. The ghostly figure moved closer, its white robe flowing behind it like a cloud of mist. The ghost came closer and closer, each step creaking louder than the last. The dwarfs could barely see the figure, but they could feel it getting nearer. Then, suddenly, something unexpected happened. The ghost lost its balance and fell down the stairs with a loud crash and a thump, making a huge noise as it tumbled to the bottom. Everyone froze. "What in the world?" cried Doc, peeking out from under the table and looking confused. There, sitting at the bottom of the stairs, was Grumpy. He was rubbing his head and groaning. "Ow, my poor head!" "Grumpy," shouted Doc, running over to help him up. "What are you doing? You scared us half to death." Grumpy looked embarrassed and winced as he rubbed his head. "I wasn't trying to scare anyone. I just thought it would be fun to play a trick on you. You sure gave us a fright." Snow White giggled. "Well, Grumpy, it looks like you got a little too carried away, but ghosts are supposed to go bump in the night, after all." Grumpy sighed and looked sheepish. "Well, I won't do it again," he said, still rubbing the bump on his head. "I've got a big bump to remind me." The dwarfs all laughed, and even Grumpy couldn't help but chuckle a little. Snow White smiled and said, "And remember, sometimes the scariest things aren't ghosts at all, just a little bit of mischief." With that, the dwarfs climbed into their beds, still chuckling. Grumpy, despite his bump, soon fell asleep, probably dreaming of ghosts that went bump, but in a much quieter way.
Thank you for joining us on this magical journey tonight. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let your dreams carry you to wonderful adventures. Sweet dreams, little dreamers. Good night.